Oh.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are now live. Thank you for joining our Hangout in SYA Italy. My name is Shauna Campbell, and I am the Admissions Marketing Manager here at SYA Abroad. And with me, I have Sam. Sam, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about SYA.
Sure thing. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam. I'm an Assistant Director of Admissions here at SYA Abroad. And I'm here to answer questions about timing when it comes to due dates and any questions that might come up in terms of the admissions process here at SYA Abroad. I'm an alum of SYA China, graduated in 2008.
Great, and he's actually going to be the country manager for Italy. So any questions, you'll direct to Sam. I put in the chat box, if everyone can introduce themselves, that would be great. And students, please put the name of your school. If for some reason you can't access the chat box and you do have a question towards the end of the session, you can email Sam. And Sam, do you want to just give your email address real quick?
Sure. My email is sschultz@sya.org. And we'll type that into the live chat box.
Yes.
Now.
Great. So now to introduce our special guests, live from Viterbo, we have the resident director of SYA Italy and 2 students. So if you all can introduce yourself, and students, can you give your name, what school you're from, where you're from, and what grade you're in?
Okay, I'll start. I'm Patrick Scanlon, resident director here in Italy. I've been with SYA for 15 years, 13 as the resident director. We're in Viterbo, which is about an hour and a half north of Rome in the region of Lazio. We have a homestay program full year. Most of you probably know that, but these students next to us live with families for the entire year. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Aaron Willard. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I go to Phillips Exeter in New Hampshire. And what grade are you in? I'm a junior right now in my 3rd year of high school.
Yeah. I'm Perry Warnock. I go to Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm also a junior.
Great, thank you so much. We're going to go into the first question. So question number 1, why did you guys decide to apply to SYA?
Okay, so my sister actually studied in SYA Italy 3 years ago. So my family and I came and visited her at Christmas time, and like right when I walked through Porto Romano, which is like the main gate because Viterbo is a walled-in city, I like immediately fell in love. It's just like the cutest little town, very Italian, like the typical Italian town. And when I was leaving, I actually talked to Mr. Scanlon and met him. And he was like, oh, maybe I'll see you in 3 years. And I was like, oh yeah, definitely. So then I went home and like whoever asked, I would tell them that I was studying in Italy my junior year. Like I hadn't even applied yet, hadn't even gotten in. But I was like, oh, I'm going. So then sophomore year, I like brought my grades up as much as possible and like tried my hardest. And then, yeah, finally got in, and it was so exciting.
Here she is.
Yeah, just like I thought. 3 years later.
For me, what really interested me in coming to SYA was that I had, last year, a bunch of seniors came back that had each gone to SYA, a bunch in Spain, some in China, and they started telling me all about it, all about the wonderful experience that they had had. And I was like, this is something that I'm interested in. So I started doing research, and I took Latin. Well, I still take Latin. And I was like, so I guess Italy's the perfect place for me. I researched the program, and I found that it was everything that I wanted it to be. And now that I'm here, I'm realizing that it's even more.
And also, I watched, like, usually a couple students make vlogs each year, which are like videos on YouTube, and like they have blogs. I think they're on the SYA website. And I think I would watch them like every week. It would just like got me so excited about coming, and they showed me what we would be doing. And I love them. No. I recommend watching them.
No, we both.
Yeah, we both make vlogs.
Yeah.
That's awesome. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about your host families?
Okay, so I have a mom and a dad and a 12-year-old little sister. And I love my host family so much. We've gotten so close over the past, I think, 4 months we've been here, especially my sister and I. Like, every night after dinner, we'll watch a movie and just like, we just started Downton Abbey together and we'll watch it every single day. And yeah, we've just gotten a lot closer, and I'm a sarcastic person and so are they. So we like matched up perfectly, and at dinner we'll all just kind of like make fun of each other almost, like in a fun way, and it's just really entertaining. I love them.
In my host family, I have a mom, a dad, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and then the grandparents live across the hall. So it's really a big, happy family, and I just love them so much. From day one, they were all so great and welcoming and warm, and I immediately felt like I didn't have to be like shy or anything around them.
All right, so that's great to know, and I know a lot of people are always interested in host families, but let's get into extracurricular activities. Can you talk about maybe an extracurricular activity that you participate in or that a friend participates in?
Yeah, okay, so I think it was the first month, maybe a little bit later, I did cooking class. And it's really fun because you actually take the class from one of the host moms. So you learn like all the Italian language for cooking, and you also learn like, I think we did pasta, pizza, some cakes, everything. And then what else have I done? Oh, I played volleyball with an Italian team, which is really fun because they teach me like Italian slang and all of that. And I'll see them in town, I'm like, oh, ciao. And we'll like stop and talk, which is like been a good way to meet all of the locals. And then I also do the soup kitchen, which is really fun and like makes me feel part of the community, and I can help as much as I can. And soccer. I recommend soccer. It's really, really fun.
My extracurricular is track and field. Sports are a big thing for me, and I was kind of hesitant about coming because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to continue. But here, the track isn't very far away, and there I've met a lot of Italians, and I've made a lot of friendships through them. Like Perry said, I'll see them in town, and I'm able to talk to them and just make good conversation. And it's really a great way to get into the community and learn more Italian.
There's a lot of extracurricular options. Like I think one student does opera, others act and dance.
I know.
There's like tango classes.
There's tango classes. There's samba. My friend does gymnastics.
Yeah.
Fencing.
Fencing. There's anything you can imagine.
Swimming.
It's all here.
All right, so tell us a little bit about Viterbo. I know a lot of people aren't familiar with Viterbo, but what makes it a great town to study abroad in?
I think Viterbo is great because you get a really good historical side of the town, but it's not like you're only living like you're in ancient Italy. You have the inside the walls, and then you have outside the walls where there's more modern buildings and stuff, but still it all blends together. And I also feel like all the people I've met in Viterbo, as opposed to other places, have been great. They've been really friendly and open, especially since they know that there are Americans that are coming. They make the extra effort to make us feel comfortable in this town.
In Viterbo, it's pretty small, which I really like because everyone knows everyone. Like on my walk to school, I live really close to school, like 10 minutes, which I recommend asking for because it's the best. It's good anyways, but every day I pass the same butcher and like the same cafe, and every morning I'll be like, buongiorno, ciao, which is really cool just to have that experience. We haven't really like had a full conversation, but just like that everyday routine is really nice.
For me, it's actually the opposite. I live further from school, so I take the bus in every morning. But from where I live, it's a really nice ride to see like the different neighborhoods pass by, and it's still good to get another interpretation or view of the town.
Viterbo is small, but there's also a lot to do. Like there's the main corso where there's shopping, like a bunch of really good restaurants and gelaterias because the food's amazing.
Yeah, and then during the winter, they had this Christmas village that kind of spanned throughout the town. They had shops, they had food stands, they had a carousel. It was all really beautiful, and the lights and everything really made the old Italian feel here come alive.
Yeah, and traditions are a really big deal here. Like, I think it was the first weekend we came, we had the Santa Rosa, which is this huge festival, which is so fun because you come in and just like, you're immediately like immersed in the culture.
Yeah, I felt like that was a really good thing to bring us into because it really cemented us in this Italian society.
Great. Well, thank you for answering that. So you've been at SYA Italy for a semester. What has been your favorite part about studying in Italy so far?
Oh, that's so hard. There's so many things. Of course, the food, which is always great.
Oh, yeah.
And traveling is so much fun, especially, even with school, it's really fun, but with our friends, we can independent travel. We go to Italian school for a week. It's called Sojourni. And that might be one of my favorite memories because that was the first time that I really met Italians and like was putting my Italian speaking to the test. And we didn't really do much. We just kind of like sat and watched, but it was still really fun. And I still talk to some of the students, which I really like.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if I can say one specific thing is my favorite because just this entire experience is so amazing. But one thing that I really enjoyed was my parents and aunt and cousin were able to come for this past vacation. And when they came, I realized how much I was actually able to help them and translate for them as we traveled through Rome, Florence, and Venice. I felt like I was a part of Italy's community and I was able to share it with them.
All right, so the next question. Speaking of travel, where have you guys traveled so far, either as a class or independently? Tell us what your travels are like.
Okay, so we've actually been a lot of places. With school, we've been to Terracina, which is this really cute, that was our first trip actually, which is this really cute beach town. Our hotel was like right on the beach. We got to stay with all of our friends and kind of hang out for the first time for longer than just like a day. We also went to Rome. We moved school to Rome for a week, which was so much fun because Rome is so close and it was nice to like figure out how to get around by the metro and everything. So now if I go for just a day trip, I like got it down. And then I went to Florence with my friends and then I traveled out of Italy with my family for Christmas.
Yeah, with my family, as I already said, I went to Rome and Florence and Venice and also made a day trip to Pisa. But also through the school, on Wednesdays, they give us a lot of activities and like sometimes in advisory groups, they'll give us a task, each one to go out to a different town in the region and we'll spend the day there answering questions and finding out more about the place. And then we can come back and all talk about it. And that has given a lot of us the ability to move around Italy on our own, which is a great like step for us to being more independent.
And also second semester, we have a lot of independent travel weekends. So we have like spring break. And I think we're going up north with school.
We're going to go to Verona, Venice, places around there.
Yeah.
You'll determine some of your destinations up there yourselves.
And I know like with my friends, we're going to Bologna and Naples, and then like maybe Dublin and Barcelona for spring break. So you really get to travel all over the place, which is amazing.
Yeah, right now for one of the independent travel weekends, I'm planning a trip to Milan.
So like a typical day in the life, like can you both be just a typical day? What's your schedule like? Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, I usually wake up like somewhere around late at like 6:45. Get up, get ready. When I'm ready, my family usually has breakfast ready for me, like cafe latte or cappuccino and some biscotti. And I just talk with my parents in the morning, make like conversation before I get out of the bus and head to school. And then during school, it starts at 8:10 and goes to around 4. And we have math, science, agroecology taught by Mr. Scanlon, the science of food. And also we have a class called Global Citizenship. It's kind of where we discuss different things that are happening in the world, like United Nations decisions. We talked about the Catalonia referendum and different things like that. And after school, we can hang out with friends for a while. We have curfew. We just have to be home before that. And then I eat dinner with my family and go to bed.
Usually I wake up around 7 and then I just eat breakfast. School starts at around 8:10, so I'll either walk to school or if it's really cold, my nonna will drive me, which is great. It's always a good day when she drives me. And then I just have normal classes. Like AJ said, we have agro, which is probably one of my favorite classes this year so far. So far, we've made wine, which is really cool. We actually gave it to our host families as a gift. What else we made? Tiramisu. We have a garden, which is really cool because you learn like real science that happens in everyday life. Olive oil, cheese. We made cheese this past Wednesday. Also, art history, we'll study something. We studied 2 churches in Viterbo, and then one day, because we have double periods some days during the week, we'll go and actually have class in those churches. So it's really cool because we can see like what we studied and actually have a visual. And then after school, I'll either go home and do homework, or I'll stay at like a bar in town and with friends and do homework with them. And then every night we have dinner as a family, which I love because that's like when we talk the most. And then, like I said before, my sister and I will watch a movie after dinner, and then I'll go to bed.
Before you came here, did you think you'd be able to say you went to a bar after school?
Definitely not.
That's a term for a cafe.
Yeah, that's a habit. Yeah, it's like a coffee bar.
So let's talk about the language part of it. How has your Italian improved since you started SYA Italy? And if you could give us an example, that would be great.
Oh, il mio italiano è tanto migliore. I came here not knowing anything, and at this point, I can confidently talk with people on the street. Like, being here and in the culture has just elevated my ability to learn the language so much, and I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, I remember I think it was like the first month or so. I didn't know much Italian before coming. I studied like the numbers and like the very, very basics. But my family and I just only talk through Google Translate. But now we can like have full conversations. I don't think we've used Google Translate in so long, which is so nice. Yeah.
Adesso parliamo in italiano più o meno in classe e voi capite tutto, vero?
Sì.
Sì, sì.
Well, for the rest of us who don't know Italian, Pat, what did you say?
We hold a lot of our classes now in Italian. They understand and interact in that language now. In most of your elective classes for sure, and in Italian itself.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
There you go. Take it away.
Okay, the past Wednesday when we were making the cheese, part of our grading for the assignment was that we only talk in Italian, and everybody was able to do that.
Yeah. It's so different learning Italian here than in the classroom in America because you're not forced, but like you use it all the time because my family doesn't speak much English and I don't speak English to them because I want to learn as much Italian as possible. So I've learned more than I could in like 4 years in America just because you're constantly using your Italian.
Earlier, one of the Wednesday activities was a 10-kilometer hike, and that also had a requirement of not speaking English, but that was
earlier.
6 weeks in.
Yeah.
And the most common comment you guys had was, I knew more even then than I thought I did.
Oh, yeah.
So it comes because you need it to live.
Yeah.
Right. So Pat, we have a lot of parents who are watching right now, so I'm sure they would love to know more about the curriculum at SYA Italy and what the teachers and faculty members are trying to achieve.
The curriculum is essentially a college prep curriculum. When SYA was founded in 1964, it did so by taking a teacher in English and in math from the United States, so that both the English curriculum could be assured to be on par with what our sending schools were expecting, and that the math sequencing that we have in American school system was maintained. That has been a constant in SYA for 52 years. So math and English is like very similar to what it would be at home. And then every other class is an elective. Our basic principles come from our mission statement. We want our activities to be, outside of math and English, to be place-based, experiential, hands-on, and language-driven. And you guys, we probably have stated that to you even a couple of times, but you can see that we design our courses with at least one of those objectives in mind whenever we possibly can. So that's why many of our elective classes are considered bilingual classes. We're actually teaching the content of those classes more and more in Italian. We've experimented over the years with trying to add more Italian and having to back off on the content and having the content have some sort of balance, which is a really big challenge for us as teachers. But that sort of says it. Hands-on, place-based, experiential, language-based are the 4 pillars. Electives also include independent studies in Intro Greek and Greek reading, a course that has an archaeological component, and it's called Excavating Ancient History, if you are so inclined. There's an Italian language and culture class that is essentially a second Italian class. Every student takes 6 courses in it, so math, English, Italian are required for all, and then effectively 3 electives from a menu of choices.
All right, thanks for explaining more about the curriculum, Pat. So back to the students. Even though you've already been at SYA Italy for only a semester, what has been the one thing you've kind of, what are the aspects that you've taken away from this program, or what have you learned? What's kind of stuck with you so far?
I'd say the biggest thing is that I've become a lot more independent, because coming from Charlotte, it's a big city, but like it's not that big. And now I'm like outside of the bubble, I'm in the real world and like doing real world things, like planning trips, like going on those trips, trying to like get from place to place. So yeah, I'm definitely more independent and honestly more outgoing, because coming here is definitely out of my comfort zone and was, but it's amazing and so worth it. I love it every day.
Something I've learned is that I need to be confident at all times, because being thrust into such a strange environment could make anybody just want to shrink back into themselves. And that just would take away the whole meaning of coming here. Like meeting new friends, new people, experience an entirely new culture. You have to just step out and embrace it all in order to get the full benefit of it.
So now is the time, if you do have any questions for these students or for the resident director, to type them using the chat box. And I have one other question, but if you had one piece of advice to give someone who is considering school year abroad, what would it be?
I guess my piece of advice would be, if you didn't take this opportunity, how would you feel? Coming to an entirely new country for an entire year, like that's not something that you just want to pass up on.
Yeah, if you're even considering coming, just come. Like, don't even think about it, just come. It's so worth it. Like, you will have 0 regrets, I promise you. And then if you do end up coming, I'd say the biggest thing, of course, still talk to your friends and family at home, but also like learn to put your phone away and kind of just like live in the moment and like talk to the people you're with and just fully embrace it, because when else are you going to be living in Italy for 9 months? Like, it's not a very common thing, especially for high schoolers. So the main thing to learn is that you have to like I said, live in the moment and like fully embrace who you're with.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's gotten to the point that when I have dinner with my host family, a lot of the times I don't even bring my phone to the table.
All right, so we have some people asking questions. So Paula wants to know, for the students, do you see yourselves now as citizens of the world? And do you see yourselves living, working, or studying internationally in the future now that you've had this experience?
Definitely,
yeah.
Especially through the global citizenship class. Like, we had some people come and talk about this model UN in Rome, but it was more than that. It also had international job portion, and it just had a lot to it. And it really got me thinking, like, what is there stopping me from pursuing a career that can branch across countries?
Yeah, like I just said, the Model UN, I'm actually going to that in Rome, I think in March, and I'll be participating in the business game. So we work with big businesses. I think one, I don't remember, it's some Italian flight company or something. Air Italia, maybe, I don't know. But we like help them come up with plans, how to like better their businesses. And I think it's mostly college students who are going. So I'm really excited about that. bit nervous, but of course I'm excited because I want to do business maybe in college. But I definitely plan on coming back during college and studying in Italy again.
So it looks like some people are having some clarification. They want clarification on the classes in Italian versus the classes in English, and what's taught in Italian, what's taught in English. And I guess they're just curious about how hard was it for you at first to understand the language?
So let me start with the classes. So definitely English and math are taught in English. And the Italian class uses some English at the beginning and then phases it out. So those are the 3 required classes. You guys don't use hardly any English at all in Italian class anymore.
No.
Then among the electives that are left, AP Latin, believe it or not, the teacher does communicate a lot of the instruction in spoken Latin.
Yeah.
So, okay, and then in the sort of precursors to the Latin course, he uses spoken Latin. Are you you're in the advanced topics class?
I am. I'm in the advanced topics class, and a lot of what he gives us is oral Latin. And at first, a couple of the kids, they were hesitant, because they had never done an oral Latin class, but they've all quickly gotten used to it and are able to respond in Latin also.
So then there's the use of Italian in the other electives. Ancient Italian art history is taught by a local teacher who uses English at the beginning and brings in Italian as the year goes on. She's using quite a bit of Italian now. The agroecology class starts essentially in English. We introduce vocabulary from the first day. Global citizenship depends quite a bit on English, but as the year goes on, more and more Italian language and culture probably gets to Italian earlier, utilizes it probably a little earlier in the year. I'm going by memory here, see if I've, and excavating ancient history. Are you in that class as well?
I'm not.
Okay, so they'll, an assessment is often in Italian. We have to understand the level our students are at, but you guys took a pretty simple quiz this week in Italian based on the weather, and everybody did very well about all the vocabulary associated with the winds. Does that help?
Yeah, I think so. Can we also just hit on preparing for college and standardized tests and what resources SYA Italy has for that?
Oh, okay. So we do have tutoring for the SAT and standardized testing. We hold the tests here in the school building, so it's not like we have to go off to some far off place early in the morning to do it. And we have a college counselor here that she's helped a lot of students. A lot of students have gone into some really good colleges already. And I feel like being here is a perfect place to set you up for college also.
So specifically, the PSAT is offered in October for juniors. The SATs, I think now that they've changed the schedule in terms of, this is the first year where they've offered only the reasoning test in some sittings, only the subject tests in other sittings. We offer almost all of them. We offer 3 sittings for the ACT. And there are very few sites in Italy that do that. And we offer the AP exams in May.
Yeah, I took the SAT in December, and it was actually a really easy process. You just sign up online through College Board and then come in that morning. And it was really cool because I think there were 10 SYA students and then 30 or so Italian kids from all over who want to study in America. So it's cool to not take it with them, but at the same time as them.
So Lily wants to know, how long did it take you guys to transition into this new environment, and was it hard? And also, when you get back to America, will you have to make up any classes?
I'd say it took me 2 days to finally adjust and realize wow, I'm in Italy. But it wasn't too hard. The first couple of days you're also just exhausted because you had just flown to a new country and everything. But yeah, besides that, once you get going, because I think the first 2 weeks there isn't any school, but then once school starts going, you get your daily routine. It's so easy.
Yeah, I'd say my transition lasted as long as my jet lag lasted because there's not really much of a transition because we're just here and experiencing Italy day one. There's not really any baby steps to take, but I'd say that once school does start and you get a routine, it does become easier to just handle life here.
So just those couple of weeks that they're referring to include orientation, a lot of administration. By virtue of being able to stay here for 9 months, it requires a study visa. That's issued by the Consulate of the United States. That gets several processes beyond that when you get here that require filling out paperwork, going to certain bureaucratic offices. But then there's also a few test classes that you guys took so you could decide what you wanted to take, scheduling to be done, and that festival that you come for takes 3 or 4. So they come here for the city's patron saints festival. It's a party, right? It's just a gigantic
like a 3-day party.
Yeah.
And then classes are really up and running about 2 weeks after that.
Regarding the making up of classes when I get home, my senior year I'll have to take US history, which usually at my school they take junior year, and also biology. But it's not a big deal for me because I know people in the grade below me, and it's the same amount I would be doing if I was home right now.
Yeah, I also have to make up US history, and that's the only thing that I have to make up. Besides that, SYA has kept me exactly where I need to be along with my peers that are still at school.
So we have another parent question, and she just wants to know, in a nutshell, just please describe the evolutionary arc of a typical student attending SYA Italy. And Pat, this is probably for you.
Academically, socio-emotionally, psychologically, linguistically.
She didn't specify.
Okay, I would say there isn't one really. For instance, I don't know if either one of you has felt homesick, but there are many students right now that are feeling kind of homesick.
Yeah.
I don't remember happening in January. So that's what's happening this year. There are 6 or 8 kids that just kind of feel like they might have seen their parents recently or something like that. So the arc is, one thing you can define is there is a period of total and complete linguistic confusion at the beginning.
Definitely.
That also accompanies immediate steps in learning. Like, oh, I can say forchetta and get a fork now. And things happen. And then when all that vocabulary starts adding up and all the grammar starts piling up, there's this just peak of confusion that starts clearing up in mid-November or so. And then right about now is when you're probably saying words that you didn't even really remember learning.
Starts to click.
It goes from short-term memory into intuition. That arc is happening because of the full year nature of our program. You guys paid the price of the first semester of that kind of confusion, which is frustrating. And the other thing is you understand faster than you can express something.
Yeah.
And that you're starting to close the gap on that.
Yeah.
To the extent that most students then, I think, experience the spring semester is very, very quick. We've just finished our first week of the second semester, but now it's really moving pretty quickly toward so many exciting things. The days are getting longer. It'll warm up here pretty quickly.
Oh, thank goodness.
So anyway, that would, I guess that is a pretty typical arc, is the confusion that yields to comfort, that yields to a home, I guess.
Thanks, Pat. I know that was a pretty tough question. And Emma wants to know, how do you convince your parents?
Oh. That was a little Well, they were used to it because my sister also studied here, but it was definitely hard to convince them, like, oh, sorry, like, I'm leaving for a year, especially because my mom would be by herself and my dad was traveling. But they were really excited for me and knew that it was like the best thing for me to do. So it wasn't much convincing.
Yeah, it wasn't super hard for me because I already go to boarding school, but my mom is a very emotional person. She cries every time I get on a plane. And I really just tried to like explain to her how much this would mean to me and how amazing the opportunity would be for me. And eventually she conceded. And then when she came this past vacation, winter break, she met my host family and she started crying because she said that meeting them made it so much easier for her to leave me here.
It's like my real family had dinner with my host family at Christmas, and it just like warmed my heart, like seeing both my families together. And I think that made my parents like a little bit calmer because they're like, oh, we left her with a great family who are really care for her and are taking care of her.
I would say if you're a kid to do that, to emphasize the safety aspect. Europe is still a very safe place to live, and parents want that first and think of that first. And then we have a lot of mechanisms in place to sort of ensure that takes place as well. But Viterbo in itself is very safe and very nurturing, and even the big cities are, comparatively speaking to big cities in the United States, wonderful, easygoing, secure locations.
SYA also like prepares us to go into those big cities and how to act in them, I guess.
Yeah, there's never been like a moment where I've really felt scared to be in a new place in Italy, since SYA really gives us the steps we need to understand how to travel, how to behave around, and how to do what we need to do when we go to different places.
For instance, just the smallest effort in speaking the local language makes you, I think the locals tend to just melt.
Locals completely change.
When you're making an effort to be like them. And you guys really embrace that.
Awesome, thank you. And just to chime in from my perspective as well, from the admissions office, I'm a resource. The whole team is a resource here. So if you have questions or if your parents have some questions that you might not know the answer to, feel free to give them my email, my phone number, and we'll follow up in the chat box with that information for everyone. Another question that's been coming up a couple times in the chat box is just in regards to studio art or art extracurriculars. I don't know if AJ or Perry or perhaps Pat, you could comment on the art opportunities in Viterbo.
I don't do art myself, but there are some people that I know and they take art classes. There's some people doing ceramics, and I've only heard good things about them. They really enjoy the classes.
So the opportunities are as many as there are art forms in Italy. There's painting, ceramics, stained glass, sculpting, pencil drawing. We have a lot. We use providers off campus that give these opportunities to kids. Other things, I do believe there is not a mosaic class here.
We did it in our history.
So we did it in our history.
Yeah.
A little bit. But some cities around town do that. Plenty of opportunities abound for art, as much as you want.
People also went to the Italian art school for a week when everyone went to the schools.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I think it is time to wrap up, and I know we have so many questions. So if you could email those questions to Sam, his email address is in the chat box. And we also want to shout out to all the current SYA Italy students who are answering questions in the chat box as well.
They are.
A ton of help. Yeah, we have a few students who are answering questions there too. So thank you so much for your help. And let's just get into application deadlines. So Sam, you want to talk about that?
Sure thing. So as we wrap up, thanks again for everyone who attended. And important dates coming up. So we have our application deadline. That's February 7th. Our scholarship deadline is also February 7th. And then our financial aid deadline is February 14th. And another shout out to those who have already applied. We have you in our portal and we're happy to see your applications. Glad you joined us today. And yeah, and like I mentioned before, any questions as you're wrapping up, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. And the team here is happy to help during the application process.
And I just want to point out that if you want to check us out on social media, you can follow School Year Abroad on Instagram, and the SYA admissions team also has a Facebook page and a Twitter account, so feel free to check those out as well. And I think that's it. So if our friends in Italy, if you guys can just wave goodbye to everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Ciao.
All right, thank you. So long.
Ciao a tutti.